Hey everyone, how are you today? Are we still counting days of lockdowns and quarantines? I don't think so. I think we're done with that. But there is something that we do need to talk about when it comes to IEPs. Now, you guys know I've been writing IEPs for over 20 years. I used to be a special education teacher. I am a special needs sibling, and I'm also founder of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship and Network, which means that I have the pure joy of teaching parents, teachers, admins, and therapists how to build IEPs for the real world. But if we're going to build an awesome IEP, then we have to talk about some of the tough conversations. And what I want to know from you right now is, what is stopping you from getting more at the IEP table? Now, some of you might think that I'm just talking to parents, and I'm really not, because, I sat at the IEP table as a teacher, and I know that I wanted more for my students, but there were a few things that were stopping me. I also know that as a special needs sibling, I watched my mom ask for more for my brother, who's 42 with Down syndrome, and she got told no often too. So I want to know from you, what are you asking for and what is stopping you from getting more? Now, the first thing that stops a lot of people from getting more at the IEP table is that they just don't know what to ask for. Hey, Anna, I see you there. We have Instagram family here with us too, so I can see all of our Instagrammers. So hello. So a lot of times we get stumped on what to ask for. So has anybody ever wanted more in an IEP, but you're like, I don't know how to put that into words, and I don't know how to ask for that. Or maybe you're a teacher and you're like, I don't know how to ask for this and keep my job. Or you're a parent and you're like, I don't know, should I ask for this? Can I ask for this? A lot of times I get parents that come to me and they say, can I ask for this? And I say, well, who says that you can't? Of course you can. You can ask for anything that you want. Doesn't mean you're going to get everything, but you absolutely can ask for anything that you want. So what's stopping you from getting more? A lot of times that's you don't know what to ask for, or you don't know if you should ask for it. Yes, I'm telling you right now, yes. If you feel like you need permission to ask for something, here's your permission. Go ask for more. That could be more therapies. That could be more academic instruction. It could be more inclusion. It could be more support. It could be more IEP goals that promote independence. It could be more of a focus on self-advocacy. It could be a teacher. You could be advocating for more consult time so you have time to prep that work that you need to get together for your student. There's a lot of things that you could be asking for when it comes to more, but you have to figure it out, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing that stops a lot of people from getting more at the IEP table, again, I'm talking to everybody. Parents and teachers, you guys don't know that you guys struggle with the same thing all the time. You have an assumption that my school has no money or no resources. Now, a lot of times teachers will hear that behind the scenes. You'll hear, we don't have the money or resources for that, okay? But parents, you should never hear that at an IEP table. In fact, that is something that is like a big no-no to be said at the IEP table. So if you have heard that, it's time for you to send me a DM about that, because we need to work around that conversation, because that should not be. So let's see. And Anna's saying that teachers for the school when it comes to what they need. So yeah, teachers sometimes don't know what students need. Sometimes teachers don't know what they need to help the students. I've been there. I was a new teacher. New teachers don't always know what they need for themselves to support a student. They don't always know what the students need. There's a big learning curve in there. So again, not knowing what to ask for is huge. The second thing is money or resources. Let's just talk about that for a minute. There is no school that I know of that is fully funded and just kind of overflowing with giving out resources because we have all the funds that we need. No, that doesn't happen anywhere. So using that as an excuse not to provide an appropriate education is not appropriate, because idea law, I'm not a lawyer. Let's say I made a few minutes into this before I have to say this. IDEA law is not fully funded by the federal government, but it's a federal law. So then that leaves it up to the states to figure it out, which then leaves it up to the districts to figure it out. But it doesn't say in IDEA law, your child gets an appropriate education if we can afford it. Your child gets an appropriate education if we can find the money. That's not what it says. It says an appropriate education. Now, let me kind of flip that a little bit. It says it doesn't say the best education. It doesn't say that you get all the bells and whistles and all the best of the best. And that, but it does say appropriate. It does say to meet a child's unique needs. It does say to prepare a child for further education, employment, and independent living. Let's see what Angela has to say here. She says, we ask, and the school doesn't follow through. Does not say yes and does not say no. Oh, I've got that. You're like, I made a little sticky note here because this is a hot topic. So a lot of times you guys get me kind of going on the soapbox here. But the next one was they asked and they said no, or sometimes they say yes and then it's not followed through on. So let me just show you what Angela wrote here. A lot of times without the school, they will say yes, include in the IEPs, and not do it and not reply to communication about it. So Angela, I'm going to actually encourage you to come over to masteriepcoach.com, because that's exactly where I teach parents and teachers and admins and therapists on how to get to yeses and how to follow through on it, and the accountability and compliance piece that's needed when it comes to IEPs. That doesn't mean that you have to have conflict. Being compliant in the IEP does not require conflict, but it does require follow through. It does require some thinking out of the box, as we have Michelle here who says, sometimes teachers are just not thinking out of the box. Sometimes schools in general are just not thinking out of the box. That's our job as master IEP coaches, is to think out of the box and to get to the yes, to get to the more, to get to the accountability, to get to the compliance without making everybody miserable, because it really does not have to be a miserable situation to make this happen. So you may be not getting more because you're not asking at all, or you're not asking in writing in the form of a PWN, which is prior written notice. And teachers, you want the parents of your students to know how to write PWNs, because it stops all the he said, she said. And you know who gets caught up in the middle of he said, she said? Teachers. Teachers do. So you don't want to be there, right? You don't want to be in the district said this and the parent said this. And then here's the teacher who's just trying to show up for work and do her thing, right? She's just trying to get it done. She's doing the best she can to do that. So when you have a parent who knows how to write a PWN, prior written notice, in a formal format, it's basically a fancy term for a letter that really lays it out in a certain structure that really requires the school to respond in writing within a reasonable amount of time. So like Angela says here, communication is so important. It is so important. And so many times that's where our teams fail. So why are you not getting more at the IEP table? It is probably a failure of communication. What needs to happen? Who needs to help make it happen? Why does it need to happen? How is this going to happen? Is this really necessary to happen? If we can show that something more is needed to have an appropriate education, to prepare a child for further education, employment, independent living, that something more is needed to meet their unique needs, we can get to a yes. Now, that yes might look different than the initial ask, but if we don't get that ask in there in the right way, then we fail at communication, which means we fail at accountability, which means we fail at the follow through. We fail at all of those things. That's one of the biggest fears we have, right? As teachers and as parents. One of the biggest things, you guys are sitting on opposite sides of the table and you're both fearing failure. Am I doing enough? Am I prepping enough? Am I asking for enough? Did we write down enough? Do we have enough services? Is this enough time for me to get this done in the school day? Is this enough therapy for my child so they can, take that leap in their communication skills that they need so much so they can be more independent? So, I've got a great question here by Anna. She says, my son has autism and both he and the teachers need help teaching him. She says, can a behavioral therapist help with an IEP? The answer is yes, 100%. Now, how that happens, okay, this is perfect. And I'm so glad that you asked this, okay? Because here's the thing. How do you get more? So a lot of times in an IEP, more behavior support would be appropriate. Now, what you think is appropriate for a behavioral therapist helping might be different what the school thinks is appropriate for a behavioral therapist helping. And somehow you have to communicate that need in writing in the formal format. Remember, that's the fancy word, prior written notice. You have to do that. And you have to get to a place where your child gets the supports so he can be successful. And if that includes bringing in a specialist for a certain amount of time, a lot of times when we say, can a behavioral therapist help, we got to put some parameters on that because schools don't want it to be a free-for-all. Remember, we talked about money and resources. It's not supposed to be an issue. We know it's an issue, but they're not supposed to say it in an IEP. Okay? It's like they're not allowed to. All right. But we know that it does really impact a lot of the decisions. So if we can come up with a really smart way for a behavior therapist to help, and guess what? Welcome to our new digital world of special education, right? Through the virus crisis. So we're getting really good at things like teletherapy and Zoom meetings and all of that. It actually can be less expensive now for a specialist to help if we can do that virtually. So maybe when kids go back to school, could we bring in the virtual support person? Absolutely possible. How you get there? Sometimes it's a winding path. As a master IEP coach, Anna, are you a master IEP coach? Have you signed up yet? So come on over to masteriepcoach.com, and this is where we kind of teach that winding road because the solution in one district might be different than a solution in another district, but we can have the same end result of having more behavior support. Let's see. I'm scrolling through here, and then Angela's saying you can invite whoever you think is imperative to the IEP as well. Yeah, so parents, you can absolutely bring support people. We do want them to have knowledge of your child, your situation, your paperwork. We want them to be able to participate in a smart way. Or they can also be there as a note taker for you. A lot of times that's huge. So you can fully participate and know that somebody's catching the between the lines stuff that's being said. Absolutely. Let's see. Lily says, I've asked many times to help my son read well. He is in 6th grade and reads at a preschool level because they were too busy focusing on behavior. So what most likely happened in Lily's situation is they said, you need to realize that we have to work on this behavior because we need your child available to learn, meaning they're able to access their education. So the behaviors were impeding his ability to access his curriculum. So it's important for us now to make sure that we're addressing not just what supports are needed. There we go. Got a little alert going on there. That the supports are not just supporting the behavior, but they're also supporting academic progress because it would be appropriate to meet your son's unique needs that he has these additional supports or maybe some intensive reading instruction to help him access the curriculum so he can be prepared for further education, employment, independent living. All those words that I just put together in there, that's exactly what we do in the Master IEP Coach program. I teach you how to put those words together so you can use them for your own family. And then you can also use them to help others. So it's a really awesome Master IEP Coach community. And we do have our summer mentorship starting in June, but bonus coaching is happening right now. So you just hop over to masteriepcoach.com, Lily, and I'll help you navigate through those next steps to make sure that it's not just behavior that's being addressed, but that it's also really focused on your son as a whole person and what he needs to be successful. So Anna says that she hasn't signed up to become an IEP coach yet. Anna, I hope to see you in the program. You've got some awesome questions and input here. I'd love to have you join us. So, all right, let's just recap real quick. Why are you not getting what you're asking for at the, well, I should say, why are you not getting more at the IEP table? 1, you may not be asking. 2, you may not know what to even ask for. 3, you may not be putting it in writing, which is causing a breakdown of communication. Or 4, maybe it's been put in writing, but there's no accountability, so there's no follow through, and then things aren't happening. Those are all things that if you're experiencing those, you are not alone. You are not alone. This is not something where this is just parents experiencing it. I'm telling you right now, there are teachers who are experiencing the gosh darn same thing. Do you know how frustrating it is as a teacher to have the entire IEP team agree on something and there's pieces to the IEP that you're not responsible for, that you actually can't implement as the teacher? Maybe it's OT, PT, speech. Maybe it's accommodations and modifications or things that you're not, that's just not your responsibility, and you want it to happen so bad for your student and it's not happening. There's ways to navigate that without throwing people under the bus. Because I'm going to tell you, nobody goes into special education to say, I want to be in special education on the team so I can take services away from a child. I want to be on the IEP team so I can fail a child. Nobody does that. Everybody goes in for the right reasons. Now, what happens after you're in the system and you realize all the red tape and those things happen? Sometimes you get a little bitter. Sometimes things are burned. Some things fall, through the cracks. But it's never the intention. Okay. 99.9% of the time, it is not the intention for somebody on the IEP team to not fulfill their obligation. There's something else that is happening. So you need to have the strategies so you have the accountability, so you have the compliance, so you have the communication, so you have more of what your child or your student needs so they can fulfill that purpose of an IEP. And I didn't make up that purpose. That's right there in Ideal Law. Remember, I'm not a lawyer. I'm telling you where to look. Purpose and findings of Ideal Law. A free and appropriate public education to meet a child's unique needs, to prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. That's what we're here to do as an IEP team. So I want you to feel really secure and confident in asking for more and knowing how to do that in a way that you can get to a yes, no matter what type of winding road you have to take. We can do it with less conflict and we can get to a yes, but we have to really get focused in the process of asking for more. Anna says, does it cost or is it free? It does cost, Anna, because you're going to do a mentorship direct with me in a group coaching program over the summer for 5 weeks. And I teach you how to do all of this for your own family. And then if you want to get paid as a master IEP coach to help parents and teams build IEPs, I teach you how to do that also. So hop on over there. And then if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out at all. Graciana says, the Master IEP Coach mentorship is amazing. I love your profile picture, Graciana. I love it. So her daughter has Down syndrome, and she's an amazing mama who actually doesn't live too far from me. And she's involved in Gigi's Playhouse, which is also where my brother is involved at. Remember, I told you he's an adult with Down syndrome, and he's an intern in their Hugs and Mugs program. I can't wait till things get back to whatever this new normal is going to be, because he loves working at the Hugs and Mugs Cafe. That's part of Gigi's Playhouse intern program. So it's nice to see you here, Graciana. All right, guys. That is all for today. If you guys have questions about any of that, go ahead and hit me up in the DMs, and I will talk to you guys soon.